Welcome one and all. I am Parzival. I am going to be playing some more Diablo 3. It has been a while since I've picked this up. Well, I guess since my last recording. I've recently had some fun ideas, I think, for, it's not exactly a D&D campaign, but it is a role-playing game. It's a, I don't really know how to describe it, because it isn't a, as far as I know, a system that already exists, but the campaign would take place in a dystopian underwater city. There would be, or I guess there will be powers, like superpowers, but not like Superman strength. If someone in this setting was to have super strength or like super speed, they would basically just like be a bit stronger than the average person, or like person that's, or like stronger than someone, or more, I guess, superior in ways that are just like a bit above peak human condition. It would be a bit more focused on like, it wouldn't be based around combat. It would be kind of based around problem solving. A bit more like video game-esque, where this is the weakness that you guys see and you have to figure out how to exploit it, but they would have to figure out what the weakness is. It wouldn't be quite as obvious. And because of the different setting and needs for it, I have made my own like stat block for it, and one of the unique stats being memory, which just means if they roll high enough, I would give them a piece of information that I had previously given them that they just may have forgotten, and that piece of information would be relevant to the situation. But I have been having fun thinking of ways that I could introduce them to my players to the system. The main way I have thought of is to essentially make a tutorial, which is just giving them like pre-made characters to play through a bit of an epilogue to help introduce them to the world and how it's gonna work. I always have a lot of fun thinking of ideas for different settings. Something else that I'm looking forward to, which this is in the D&D realm, is that next month, I haven't decided an exact time, but I'm going to be starting my my 3-part campaign, because it is way too many people to have 10 in one campaign. I would not be able to keep track of that easily, and I don't think everyone would get enough screen time. It'd be really hard to focus in on people's like backstories and stuff when there are so many of them there. But I think I've figured out enough story to be able to like run a session or two with all of them before needing to brainstorm. I will say the problem with trying to run 3 campaigns at once is going to be if I'm going to be burnt out quickly. Because yes, I'm looking forward to them now and have a lot of ideas, but how long will that last when I'm trying to split my attention onto 3 fairly big projects? Because I don't remember if I have stated what the 3 different campaigns are. I probably have in the first or second Diablo. I don't remember though. But the one that I think I'm having the most trouble with is the just kind of basic adventure group, because they don't really have a narrative that they're going to be trying to follow, while the other 2 do. The other 2 being a group of rebels trying to overthrow a kingdom, and another small group that's trying to figure out what happened to the gods that went silent, that stopped responding to their followers and stopped interacting with the world in general. I believe that I think that the players know this. I don't remember if all of them are aware, because I know that one of the people in that group wasn't there for that initial Malia campaign, but those gods are dead or restrained. The only one that is restrained is the one that there are 6 gods that went silent. The new god of death, who became god of death by killing the original god of death. But then, because of that, he was also gonna try to kill the other gods. So the other gods were like, yeah, no, you're not gonna do that. So the other 15 gods went to try to kill him, but 5 of them died. So yeah, that didn't work too well for them. But in the end, they were able to restrain him. Which, I mean, 5 gods and just being able to restrain the guy, that's not very great for them. But yeah, I think that the group that's gonna have to... I think the group currently that has the best chance of crossing over with the other 2 is the, I think I have them, like, labeled in my notes as the God Seekers. Because they have one of the more linear travel-based paths. Because yes, the adventurers can go to technically anywhere. There is stuff that they won't be able to do or find because of their less focused nature on a specific larger task. I might introduce something like that. But as for now, I have not thought of anything that would make sense to introduce them all to. Oh, and something kind of strange that I thought about for their level up system, it's not going to... I'm kind of doing experience, but also kind of doing milestone. I'm doing milestone in the fact that I'm not going to have them keep track of XP, but I'm doing XP in the fact that that's how I'm gonna be, like, deciding when they're going to be leveling up. Basically, I'm gonna be keeping track of their experience myself as a group, or as groups, because I think that's going to overall be easier instead of them being just asking like, okay, so when are we gonna level up? I will have my own way to determine when they level up, and that way I don't need to have that questioning, but also just makes it easier for me to determine when it is that they will actually level up. There's a specific spot that I'm really looking forward to with the Godseeker group. I'm looking forward for them to get to a specific point where they'll enter through like kind of like a celestial gate, which will bring them to I've kind of just been calling them in my head calling the place in my head as the Shattered Lands, which is essentially, so in my first campaign there were gates that led to kind of like special domains for each god, but from one of them being killed and the other ones that didn't die being weakened from, fighting another god and the other gods being killed, they essentially destroyed the gates to their domains, and there is another special gate that can only be reached from, I'm trying to write, it's in the Land of the Beasts, or if you look at my YouTube banner, that is the World of Malia. I forget if it is before or after the death of the god of Earth, which is just the god of, like, land, essentially. But what I said was after he died, the planet kind of had a strange reaction, so it just started morphing in strange ways. So that was fun getting to change that map a bit. But the Land of the Beasts is the larger island on the bottom left of the planet map. And then I think it's visible on the banner. But then there is a series of islands that are in a large body of water in part of it. The gateway to the Shattered World is there, where they will be, where if they get on their way to there and within, they will have to deal with the chained god Zion, his followers. They existed in the previous campaign, but this is basically just a new group that discovered what happened and are like, hey, well, I want to worship that guy. We need to free this guy. But I did build these guys a bit differently than the last one because I didn't exactly know how I should build them. So it was a lot more homebrew, whereas they are still homebrew enemies. But I do have a better, like, it's not like homebrew spells or anything. If they are to know spells, then I gave them actual D&D spells, which greatly simplifies things. It makes it feel a lot more fair. Because it isn't just like, oh yeah, you guys lost because they know things that are more powerful than they reasonably should be. I actually thought this time to compare them to other enemies in the monster manual, which I, for some reason, didn't think to do with my last campaign. It's so crazy to think that that original campaign was a couple years ago when it started, and it only recently ended. It's so crazy to think about that. I do think that they're really going to enjoy it, though. And I doubt that I'll have any shortage of ideas to tell all of you about. Speaking of not having any shortage of ideas, I actually have two other worlds kind of roughed out in my head. Only one of them has a map, but I haven't really labeled anything for it yet. But I thought of something that would be a cool little thought, where the deities that people worship, they aren't exactly gods, just like mythical animals that are just extraordinarily powerful, which is why they've been mistaken for deities or gods. And then the other idea that I had for that kind of thing is, why is it taking so long for me to remember when it's already in my head? So, there are only two gods, but that, like, rule over every domain, but people only worship the certain aspects of that god. So I don't remember exactly what each of them rules over, because it's been a minute since I've looked at that sheet, but, so let's just say this for example. So the one who has control of the domains of death and water and earth, let's say that for example. Some followers might only worship the aspect of death or the aspect of water, not necessarily both. So there are many people that are worshipping this technically the same god, but to them they represent very different things. So that's a fun thing. I haven't put as much work into that one as the previously stated one. I guess I should kind of label them so you guys can keep track. I'm fairly certain that the world where the gods just have different aspects of themselves that are worshipped, I'm I named that one Phasier. And then the world where they worship, like, the mythical animals that aren't actually gods. That is, why am I spacing on the name? It's gonna kill me if I don't remember what this is. I might have to pause this and find it. If I don't remember, I'm gonna pause it after this tomb. Or I might just come back in the next video and say what it is. Something I've realized though about my recordings is that it's a lot easier for me to just talk when I'm playing this game because it's not very, it doesn't require a lot of focus from me, so I could just talk and not have to put in a lot of thought. But like with Hollow Knight or Plague Knight, that requires a bit more focus, so it's harder to talk and do that, so it ends up being a bit more of just gameplay videos where Diablo 3, I'm playing this one so I actually can just talk over it. It's just easier to just be able to talk with this one. I don't have that same problem of not being able to talk because it takes too much focus, because you guys see that there's very limited controls and attack buttons. And I mean, that's really all I need to do for this. Just give it minimal thought. That looked harder than I was hoping it would. While still being able to hopefully entertain with my ideas. Though I guess if you weren't, I don't know why you would watch my videos. Or I guess it's not these ones, now that you are aware that the Diablo videos will most likely be a way for me to just talk about stuff. If that's not your thing, that's fine. You can just watch more of the videos that take less focus. That, I guess, take more if you don't want to hear as much world lore for my things. I think I touched briefly on this earlier, but I think at the very beginning, that I touched briefly on how it's been a little bit since I've played this. It's been a couple weeks, I think, and the last time I played this was when I was recording, so I don't remember exactly what I have or have not said, so I'm sorry if I repeat things, but there is an NPC that I made that I am really looking forward to playing as. His name is Malachi Lucine. He's just a great character that I like, that I had a lot of fun making. I had the most, when I made him, it was the most fun I had making a character in a while. Because I just hadn't been able to think of character ideas, then I thought of him, and I spent that whole day just having fun fleshing him out and thinking about the different details I could put into him. He is a vampire and a quote-unquote bard, meaning that's what he tries to play himself off as. And he is a warlock though. But with the feat Magic Initiate, he is able to actually learn some bardic spells to help him better play off his bardness. And I've actually recently thought of ways that I could make a fighter into a paladin, which is basically just a fighter, but then giving them, with Magic Initiate, cleric spells. That's the bit less creative, I think, because it is harder to pull that off because of the only one use of the spell, instead of being able to cast it multiple times with the multiple spell slots. Though it is kind of that same problem with the Bard Warlock, because of Warlocks only having very, very few spell slots. They can heal a bit, but it's only twice at the level that he will be. Just only twice. Though it will be a good amount of healing. Oh, and something that I've done with Malachi is I have his base level 1 character sheet, but then when I want to make like a different version, I don't just go over that, I just make a new copy of it and then go over from there. And I have a friend that's running a campaign that my current character might die soon. I'm not exactly sure but we're going into like a war arc, so there's a good chance of him dying. And because of the level that those characters are at, I was able to give Malachi an additional feat. As of current, that group is level 10. But with that, Malachi can have the Performer feat, which will both allow him to have expertise in performance, but also he is capable of distracting an enemy. So they just aren't paying attention to anything other than Malachi, which I think is a fun little thing, that with his Pact boon, the Pact of Chains, and his familiar, a little sprite, it would be easy for perhaps a little pickpocketing. Because if Malachi successfully distracts them, then they have disadvantage on perception and investigation checks. Which in turn, I think, because they'd probably be using, maybe against their passive perception, if the DM is nice, that might give her, the little sprite, her name is Rosie, I believe. Yeah. Might give her advantage on her sleight of hand check. And I mean, if Malachi is also good at deception, so if they don't believe, if they're like, hey, you're trying to distract so you pickpocket, you're like, what are you talking about? I'm not trying to do that. But he's just a fun character that I'm looking forward to play as, though I don't want my current character to die either. They both serve very different purposes. An idea that I've kind of been playing around with in my head is the prospect of maybe doing an episode or two, or just try out going through it, just picking a character. Sorry about that, I was recording longer than I thought, and I can't record for very long before it just stops recording. But as I was saying, an idea that I was playing around with in my head was being able to just go a whole episode playing a specific character. Now, if I get bored of that character, I might just swap to a different one, but I'd do my best to stick to that character. Those would also probably be shorter episodes, as I do not want to have to be them for too long, especially if I haven't gotten the chance to really play as them before all that much. I like that. Well, I think this is where I'm going to be ending this episode. I hope you all enjoyed, and subscribe to become a Knight of Malia, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye!